In this video, I'll show you how to correctly combine the SUMIF and VLOOKUP functions in Excel without running into errors or ending up with unwanted zeros or nil results. So this topic was inspired by many of your comments on my previous video on this topic, where some of you mentioned that the formula in that video returned 0 or nil values. If you haven't watched that video yet, the link to that video is available in the description box. Okay, so we have two tables over here. We have a table on the left-hand side consisting of customer IDs, order dates, and order amounts. And to the right of that, we have another table consisting of only customer names and their respective customer IDs. What I want to do here is I want to get the sum of order amounts from the table on the left-hand side for a particular customer. Now, as you can see in the first table that is in the table on the left-hand side, we don't have customer names. We only have customer IDs. But on the table on the right-hand side, we have customer names and customer IDs. So I want to get the sum of order amounts for this particular customer, Steve Lemmy. As you can see, the order amounts are only in this table, but the Steve Lemmy, the name, is only mentioned on the right-hand side table. And to achieve this, I'm going to be using a combination of the SUMIF and the VLOOKUP statement. And here's what the formula looks like. So the updated formula for getting this without running into errors, such as getting 0 or nils, is currently displayed on the screen. So I'm going to be applying this formula to cell J3. And it goes as follows. So it starts with a SUMIF. So I'm going to type =, SUMIF, open parentheses. Then I'm going to enter my range. In this case, the range is going to be the range of customer IDs from the left-hand side table. And I'm going to also apply a reference log by clicking on F4 on my keyboard. So that's the range. Since we're doing the sum based on customer IDs, since that's the common denominator between these two tables, that's going to be our range. Then I'm going to put a comma. Next, I'm going to do a VLOOKUP. And I'll explain in a moment why I'm doing a VLOOKUP. I'll do VLOOKUP. I'm going to search Steve Lemmy in the table on the right-hand side. So I'll select the full range of the table on the right-hand side. I'm going to also apply a reference log here. And then, comma, I'll put the column index, which in this case is 2, since the customer IDs are in the second column of this table, and false. So that's the syntax for the VLOOKUP. And then the last statement is going to be the sum range of the SUMIF statement. And the sum range is column D. That's because column D is the column that contains the order amounts. And then I'll end it with a closing parentheses. So I'm getting the 0 amount. And I did this on purpose. I left a small piece of the formula out to demonstrate how this would look without putting in the trim. So the reason we're getting zeros is because we have some leading spaces or some spaces at the end after Steve Lemmy. In other words, there might be a leading space in front of it or after the word Steve Lemmy, even though it looks exactly the same as the value that's in this table over here. It's a little bit different. And to avoid getting the 0 or nil results, the solution is very simple. All we have to do is, in our VLOOKUP statement, in the range, we have to include a trim. So we're going to trim the VLOOKUP range. And that's very easy. So before I3, I just put trim, open parentheses, and our range is going to be surrounded by this trim formula. And then I'll click on enter. And voila. So we were able to successfully retrieve the sum of all order amounts for this particular customer. And as I mentioned, what this VLOOKUP in the criteria range of the SUMIF does is the VLOOKUP returns the customer ID to the SUMIF statement. In other words, if I only copy and paste this VLOOKUP statement in a particular cell, this VLOOKUP statement will return the customer ID for Steve Lemmy. Let's do it right now just for demonstration purposes. I'm just going to copy and paste it in this cell. There we go. See? This VLOOKUP by itself only returns the customer ID for this customer. And then this customer ID is being used by the SUMIF. So in the SUMIF, the first argument is the range. As we said, the range is the customer IDs from the table on the left-hand side. Then we have the VLOOKUP that returns the customer ID for Steve Lemmy, which in this case is ID 007. and the last argument is the order amounts. And this formula gives us exactly what we want without running into errors in situations where we have some data contamination issues due to, say, a leading space at the front of the name or at the end of it. But applying the trim formula within the VLOOKUP will solve this. We'll no longer get the zero or error values if we apply the trim in the VLOOKUP. And that's how it's done. And this is how we can easily combine the SUMIF and VLOOKUP statements in order to retrieve the sum of order amounts based on the customer ID. And that's how it's done. I hope you found this video useful and got some value out of it. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also, if you're new to my channel and you haven't subscribed already, please make sure to subscribe and also turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future videos. See you soon.